Well,
And then if you guys will be mindful, the lapel mic will pick up.
Alright, so we're going to be starting the interview in a little bit, and his microphone kind of picks up the background noise.
Okay, you ready? All right, will you state your name and what branch of the Army you serve in?
Marvin Ledy, and I served in the, I guess, the Armed Forces.
What division did you serve in?
738 Tank Battalion. It was a separate battalion. We weren't hooked to any necessarily any division or anything. The 738 tanks, special tanks, 75 millimeter cannons.
What were you doing before the war?
Farming. I grew up on a farm.
And then what prompted you to get involved in the war?
Well, I didn't volunteer. I was drafted. That's all right. I wanted to go. I was having trouble. I wasn't doing too good in college anyway. It wasn't too good a life for me in college, so I decided I wanted to go in the Army, and I got caught in the first group of 19-year-old drafts from Dickinson County. There was 40 of us in that group, and I don't know where any of them are at now. I don't know where any of them are at.
So tell me about your basic training.
What is that?
Tell me about basic training.
Oh, that was in Fort Benning, Kentucky. We was in the tank battalion. We went on. Everybody took turns driving the tank, and assistant tank, and gunner, and fireman, and also we had a lot of KP duty as privates. A lot of KP duty that way.
What is KP duty?
Peel potatoes. That was a big deal. Peel potatoes.
So what was your role in the tank unit?
Well, I was one of the radio operators, communications. We worked in communications. We did set telephone lines out and reported to CQ, and because messengers also worked in the headquarters as a CQ and took orders out to different captains in different companies. We had A, B, C, and D companies. We had three companies of tanks. Headquarters, service, and ABC.
So when did you deploy overseas, and where did you go?
It was in, must have been that last of April in '44. We crossed in the ocean, and we docked at Southampton, Scotland, and then we were trained out to the west side of Wales. The west side of Wales, right on the Atlantic Ocean. And then we were pitched on a country hill out there, and we had tanks, our tents. We lived in tents, mess kits for meals and all that, and walked through the dining concessions that way. We trained our tanks out there. We had our gizmo tanks at that time. We were sworn because secrecy. It was a light in the tank as well as a gun, and that would light up the field in front of us. You could see quite about that way. That was for night fighting, the lights. But we didn't use it until the very last at the Rhine River when we did use the lights. There were 6 battalions of us that were equipped with that light in the desert when we were trained in the desert before we went overseas. But we were the only ones that took it overseas. Only ones that took it overseas, our battalion. And when getting ready for D-Day, they decided that the lighted tanks wouldn't be very practical for the beaches and that way. So we were deferred from D-Day on that particular day, D-Day.
So if you didn't have the lights in your tanks, you would have been there on D-Day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We might have been on a rather weathered the medium tanks.
Were you involved in any invasions?
What's that?
What invasions were you involved in?
Divisions?
What invasions?
Oh, the three campaigns. Three campaigns, I think. It's the Ardennes, and I forget what the other was, and Central Europe. That was through December and January and February and March and April. April and May till the very land of the war.
Can you tell me a little bit about the invasion at the Ardennes?
The what?
The invasion, your first invasion that you were involved in?
Divisions?
The first invasion?
Oh.
The first battle that you were involved in?
Well, the first battle was the Battle of the Bulge. We got into that. We were pretty close to Aachen, Germany when that put off, and then that started, I think, the 19th of December, and it lasted till shortly after in January. We stayed there till the day after Christmas, and then we skipped back, moved back, retreated back to First Army headquarters. Went clear back to First Army headquarters, and then we worked back after that as scattered as the battle. We scattered our tanks out and did different things with them. We had rollers on our tanks. We had the wheel chains, and also several of them with bulldozers, blades on them, so they could take care of the mine fields and there. Those tanks were kind of scattered out different places and in for divisions, so we weren't together at the battalion too much. All Fank tanks were together; they kind of scattered out. I think we did lose one tank. We lost one tank, but the crew wasn't hurt too bad that way.
So for the Battle of the Bulge, what were concerns for a tank, or were you guys in a good position?
Well, we just kind of holding positions. What we're doing, we weren't firing anything at that time. It hadn't got to us that close to defend. We also doing a lot of guard duty. I mean that way, and watching that, and we heard a lot of fantastic stories that some of the Germans was in American uniforms that they had captured, and that they had the wires that would come around behind you on the neck and put wires around your neck. We had those kind of stories. That's about all we knew about it at the time. We didn't really know what was all going on, but we knew it was a battle. A lot of shooting on, and a lot of coming over, and the planes would fly over and drop a flare on us different times and light up the countryside. And we didn't do any firing of our machine guns, because if we did, that would give our tracer bullets, would give us our line. The planes would know where we're at. But we did get strafed a few times, but they didn't get anybody hit that way in the line when they dropped those flares out.
How long were you in the Battle of the Bulge?
Well, we was there probably not more than about 2 weeks till when we retreated, when we went back to Liège. Probably about 2 good weeks it was in that one.
Now I heard it was cold there. Can you talk about how cold it was?
Yes, it was cold. I think we've seen some 20 below zero days. I don't know how we existed, but we did.
So what battle were you involved in after the Bulge?
What?
What's the next battle that you were in?
The next time I got close to battle was at the Rhine River. We got called up there that way, and one of our lieutenants got over there with a bridge, and I think he got hit and went back to the hospital. We never did see him again. But we were there. We were there then for about 2 or 3 weeks before we moved across the river into the deeper part of Germany that way. Our tanks kept going. The war was moving pretty fast after that. After the Rhine River, we got into that. It moved pretty fast.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Rhine River?
Well, I walked up to it and looked out there, and the Germans were firing their 88s at us, and I had shrapnel roll up to my feet one day. Shrapnel roll up to my feet that way. And we also captured 3 German frogmen coming down the river. They wanted to bomb the bridge before it fell. We picked those up and turned them into security, and we was there, and then I think I just seen the bridge. I seen it after it fell down. I didn't see it fall down. I was back a little ways, back in there. We was kind of going into those German homes. It was kind of desolated at that time. The German homes, the people just had left with their clothes in the closet and the food on the table. They just left everything go, and we moved in and picked up the furniture and the stoves to keep warm. We butchered a lot of furniture to keep warm because everybody was gone, so we just had to waste.
And you said at the Rhine River, you guys did have to use your lights in your tank?
Yeah, we used a lighted tanks. I wasn't with it at that time. I don't know just what we did, but it was used there. I suppose probably it wasn't when we were doing building the pontoons. It wasn't doing that. I did watch them build a pontoon across there, and I got later on had a chance to move some new tanks. Tanks volunteered to move some new tanks up after the war, pretty well over, and I got to drive a tank across that pontoon bridge. That was quite an experience.
Were you moving supplies or just taking it for a ride?
No, it wasn't a lot of. It was kind of fantastic, kind of a lot of fun. Two guys, but not having to drive a tank for a year and then all of a sudden get in one and got to go across country. They just volunteered for some volunteers to move some new tanks back up to the front lines. Yeah.
The tank that you were assigned to, was that the same tank you had throughout the entire war?
Well, I didn't really ride a tank from that time I got out of basic training. We went to radio school, learned the dot and dash code, and come back then, and we were assigned to a half track. Now, had our radio equipment in a half track, and we had a driver and a serviceman and two radio operators to each tank, each half track. There was 3 half tracks and 6 of us radio operators, and I rode a half track the rest of the time out on the war that way. The rest of the time.
So, just so that I understand, a half track is separate from the tank? Yeah,
it's different. The back is, I don't know, it's not too long, 5 or 6 feet on tracks. It's just like a tank, and then it's got a cab inside and curtains on it, and then 2 wheels in front, and they drive with a steering wheel, and got gear shifts just like the trucks, but it's what's called a half track. I don't know why. There were different vehicles that had kind of half tracks that way.
And the purpose that you were in a half track, you communicated to the tanks though?
Yeah, I could communicate to headquarters or the different tanks and call back and forth that way. Yeah, relay messages.
What was a typical message like?
Oh, I don't recall anymore what we're talking about.
That's okay. I was just curious. Yeah. Okay, so then talk to me about Central Europe battle.
What's that?
The battles in Central Europe.
Central.
You said that one of the battles that you were in was in Central Europe.
Well, we was pretty well supported. I wasn't in the tanks. We was kind of back behind a little bit, kind of keeping track of it, and worked out of headquarters of our company with the company commander, Colonel Wisbud, and I worked with them. Get choked up here. That's about all we did. I don't remember what was going on, but did a lot of CQ work in the headquarters overnight. You know, that one to call out the bugler and call out the KPs in the morning and call the officers for reverie and get them out that way. When we did a lot of CQ work.
Did you ever feel in danger being in the position that you were as a radio operator?
No, I don't necessarily feel that way. I think we felt pretty dangerous when the Battle of the Bulge, when they dropped those flares over to light up the country that way. Of course, we were in bivouacs in buildings when they did that. We weren't in the vehicles, but we were pretty nervous. When the Battle of the Bulge, that was a big deal but we really didn't know what was going on at that time either. We weren't sure what was going on.
Were you ever under enemy fire?
Yeah, we opened the door of our half track, and about 2 minutes ago, we got strafed. That scared us. Planes hit us. But we never got hit that way. We was all right.
Where was that at?
I can't remember where that was at. That was in one of the battles. Someplace before. I think that happened before we got to the Rhine River Bridge.
Now, did you ever have to shoot a weapon?
No, I didn't. I learned how to shoot the 50 millimeter rifle cannons, though, in training. We learned to do a lot in training.
Do you remember where you were on VE Day?
We were in some place in Germany, kind of just taking it easy because the war had wound it down by that time, and I forget just exactly what happened. And then they said, "Well, that's no more battle now, so we'll take it easy." And so we played a lot of volleyball to exercise every day long, volleyball games to keep her busy, exercise that way.
What about when we dropped the bombs on Japan and Hiroshima? Do you remember when that happened? Yeah,
I do, very vaguely. We were on the way back home from Germany. We were on the Lehman Abbott little Liberty ship, and all they had was food and men on it, and it was going pretty high. And we had a pretty good little storm there, and it seemed like the bow would come out and go bang, bang, and then the screw would come out and that way. And then they dropped the bomb in August. We were about halfway across the Atlantic, and the next day the river got just as smooth as a tabletop. And the crew said they'd never seen the water get that low. There were no big waves or swells. It just stayed smooth for about a day and a half. And then the ocean got riled up. In other words, it just got calmed down when that bomb went off there. So,
wow, that's interesting.
Of course, we had no idea just what was going to happen after we got back to the United States. And there, I think that was about the 20th of August, someplace in there, till we got back. We was on the ocean, I think, almost 2 weeks getting back. Ship could make 300 miles a day. That's pretty long day. Usually about 220 miles is up all the little ship can make in the ocean. And when you got a 300,000 mile ocean, it takes quite a while to get across. Now we fly. Everything's flying now. You get there overnight.
What was it like coming back home after the war?
Oh, it's pretty pleasant. I think I got into Abilene about 4 o'clock one morning on the train, and I did do a little bit of smoking, but not very much. It never got to me. But I got out of the plane at Junction City, and I threw my cigarettes out, and I said, "No, I haven't touched one since." Walked up to where my wife was staying in an apartment building there with some other working girls, and working that way. And I sat out in the back porch till somebody woke up. I didn't wake them up till I walked up there at about 4:30 in the morning. That was quite an experience when I walked in. They knew I was on the way home, but they didn't know when I was going to get there. And I got ushered out in Fort Jefferson Barracks, Missouri. They got me mixed up. They didn't get me down to Leavenworth to get mixed out at Leavenworth. They got me mixed out at Jefferson Barracks, Missouri. And so when I got off the base that day and getting back home from my furlough, I barely got into the train station, and I think it was just about ready to move. I got my ticket and all that, and I run to the train when it was all moving. The kid said, "Come on, we'll get you on there." And I got on. The train was moving to get back home early in the evening. St. Louis, quite an experience that was, getting back on the train. I got on the train and I sat down. I said, "Now put a tag on me. I got to get off at Abilene, Kansas." course, I changed I changed to Kansas City. That's what I told the conductor. I said, put a tag on my name because I got to get off at Abilene, Kansas sometime in the night, and I may be sleeping. Okay, we'll wake you up, he says. So I made communications, and we made it okay.
Tell me about your wife when she saw you.
I don't remember what she did. She probably jumped with joy, leaping that way. I'd been gone for 18 months after I was married. I'd been gone for 18 months. A long time.
Do you have any additional questions that you'd like me to ask him that you know of?
Well, I think he's done pretty good.
I know he did.
Yeah. But of course, the communications is that I somehow found out what the ship was that he was on. Somehow it slipped through the brakes somewhere, but I had no idea when he landed or when this way, or I had any idea when so I just opened the door, there it was. I mean, so, your communication and all my letters, well, in 6 weeks I didn't hear from him, and a lot of them be so cut up that all you'd have is just scraps of paper in your letters. And so they went through your letters, all this. So you didn't get much communication at all. And, we just took things and depended on the good Lord, I guess, to get us back home and get us together,
Wow.
So
It's a strong home front to have to deal with that, Yeah. All right, well, that is all the questions I have for you.
That's about it.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to, you're welcome to. You go ahead.
So while you were in Europe, did you ever meet General Eisenhower? Do you know anybody who did?
No, I never got close to him. He got pretty close to us one time, but we never got to see him anything. Yeah.
What was your impression of him? What did you think of him as a leader?
What's that?
What did you think of General Eisenhower?
Oh, I was all for him.
Do you know what the troops sort of thought of him as a leader? What did they think about his leadership style?
Well, I don't know. I don't think as a battalion army, our officers ever debated what he was doing. I think they pretty well all agreed with the orders that we got from the top up. I forget just who are. I think we were with the 1st Infantry and the 1st Division a little bit, the big red one that's down there at Manhattan. I think we were kind of under all those there that way. But we put in the time and did the service that way.
What kind of leader was he? Was he a dictator? What kind of a leader was Eisenhower in your perception?
I think he was all right. I don't know. We never debated that one. We never talked about that. I just kept telling the guys, I'm from Abilene. I know Ike's hometown.
Awesome.
There was a couple of us there.
Did you ever get the chance to meet Eisenhower after the war?
No. Well, no. About as close as I got to him was when he was in Abilene different times that way. Now, the wife over there baked a birthday cake for Ike and on their, was that 57s or something?
Do you want to come in? Because I want to get that on film. Come on up here right next to him. I would love to get that on film. So tell us about baking a cake.
Well, he was coming to Abilene, of course. When he came to Abilene, he sneaked around a lot, and he got away from the servicemen. I mean, he and Charlie, trying to think his last name. Your mom could tell. Charlie were good friends, and they kind of sneaked out, and he got to visit with him. But anyway, they was having a birthday celebration for him while he was here, and Hannah Garrison called me. She happened to know I made wedding cakes and birthday cakes and things, and she called, and at that time we were living on a farm, and even though that, I made lots of cakes that I took her out of town. But we were driving Holland's children to school.
School bus.
This was back in the days when you didn't have a school bus. You used your station wagon to take kids. So I had to bring it because the kids got to come in for the parade, and so the school children. So not only did I have the cake, but I also had school children to handle while to bring that cake into town. But the Secret Service was very nice. They were there. I had somebody come out the house. I'm sure it was through the Secret Service someplace, and asked me some questions before I made the cake. And I made, I think the bottom was, I don't know how many you're supposed to serve.
Yeah, it was pretty big.
About like this, and then another one on top, put "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." And he gave Charlie Case the first bite, and Marge Olson was there, and I think they offered her the first bite, and she said, "No, I won't take it." And I think Charlie Case took the first bite of the cake. But anyway, they enjoyed the cake, and I received a nice letter from him, from President Eisenhower then, and of course, they do those things, and
Do you still have that letter?
so that was one of my experiences. Quite an honor, because I really wasn't all that old then. To think about that, and so it's been a part of my life, and but it was good to see him when he got home. So we made it 75 years, and so we can't ask for anything more.
So, what was it like being apart during the war? How did you sort of deal with being apart during the war? And I'm sure you were worrying about him. You talked about writing the letters back and forth. Can you tell us more about that?
I'm not quite getting what I have some.
Oh yeah, of course. What was it like being separated? During the war.
Oh.
Did you worry about him?
Well, sure you do. It was 6 weeks when I didn't get any mail. And a lot of the times your letters, they were either blacked out or a lot of times just all cut out, pieces cut out of them. So you had to guess on a lot, But, you looked every day for a letter or one letter, That's one thing we did correspond. You tried to write a letter every day, tell what he was doing. But during that 6 week, and that was the time he was up at the Rhine River, was that Battle of, where the really was in the tanks were busy, and so you just go to bed and wake up and do your things, and. Of course, we were all in the same boat. I had lots of wonderful friends in Abilene that name all of these. We met Eisenhower and a bunch of the girls those ages, and they had, we bonded together and you did things and just hoped for the best. But it was a long 18 months.
That's great.
That's how I kind of got a jump on some of the other servicemen who got married early.
Do you still have that letter from Eisenhower?
I still, well, they have a copy here.
Oh, they do?
No, our house burnt down, and I lost my letter. No,
Yeah, we got it.
But they have a copy here.
Oh, good. At the library.
Yeah, I think the copy in the archives back here of that letter, just thanking us. It came to our house. Mail carrier got it out.
Good.
Um,
We can get a copy.